Thank you, Senator Stabenow. I'm delighted to be here with you, and I know from Rhode Island's experience how difficult things are in Michigan. And I have seen over and over again the passion and energy with which you come to the floor to argue on behalf of the people of Michigan. And I'm here to join you this evening on behalf of the people of Rhode Island. The unemployment insurance obstruction that we're getting is simply cruel under the circumstances in Rhode Island. I know that my friends on the Republican side like to argue that if you cut off people's unemployment insurance, that'll motivate them to get back out there in the workforce where they should be, as if they were just idling around in Rhode Island, as if they weren't out looking for work. We're at 12.3% unemployment. 12.3% unemployment. We've been the third or fourth highest unemployment state in the country for months and months and months now. This is not some sudden, glitch in the accounting. This is a persistent economic nightmare in Rhode Island. We've been 15 straight months, more than a year, double-digit unemployment. And if you go back to 8% unemployment, we go back 22 months, nearly 2 years. So this is a persistent problem. And the notion that you're going to cut off somebody's unemployment insurance and have them go out and find a job is just plain nuts in a state like Rhode Island or a state like Michigan, because the job just isn't there to be found. As Senator Stabenow said about Michigan, her folks are hard workers. Rhode Islanders are hard workers. We've got a tradition of working hard in a whole variety of industries. There aren't a lot of people lying around enjoying the luxury of unemployment insurance payments. They want to be out getting work. Unemployment insurance payments let them go search for work and feed their family, pay the rent, put gas in the car, buy shoes for their kids, put food on the table, all in the meantime. Our colleagues want to take that away. Let's scroll back for a minute to why we're here in the first place. We're here in the first place because the people who were supposed to be regulating Wall Street were asleep at the switch. And the people who were supposed to be regulating Wall Street were asleep at the switch because they were told to be asleep at the switch. It is the Republican theory of governance that regulation should have a light hand and that corporations know better and should really run the show. And so the folks who were supposed to be regulating Wall Street were the captives of the big Wall Street financiers. They took all the brakes off. They let them run with all crazy leverage ratios, new instruments like derivatives and collateralized debt obligations, and they went right to sleep, just the way they were supposed to. And the result was a catastrophic Wall Street meltdown that could have been prevented if there had been a different theory of governance, and not the theory of governance that you let the corporations run the show, and that's really the best thing for Americans. But that's what happened. They let the corporations run the show. That theory of governance prevailed. There was a massive meltdown. And that massive meltdown sent a tsunami of misery across this country into places miles from Wall Street, completely different from Wall Street, including states like Rhode Island and Michigan. We've got 71,000 people unemployed in my little state of Rhode Island right now. And those people need to get unemployment insurance while the economy recovers. We're not a 4% unemployment state. We're not a 6% unemployment state. We're not even an 8% unemployment. We are over 12% unemployment. There is not a job for these people. And to take away the bread and butter, to take away the basic sustenance off their table, frankly, it's just unfair. We've even tried to get an extra $25 added to the benefit, and the Republicans have objected to that. $25. It doesn't seem like much, and indeed it's not much. But if you're just getting by on unemployment insurance because your state's been in recession for so long as ours has, that extra $25, that's a meal that the family doesn't have to skip. That's a trip to the doctor that they don't have to duck because they can't afford the copay. It's an important little thing. And it's just symbolic of the attitude on the other side of the aisle that, sorry, Not interested. Tough bounce. We don't care. We were on the floor earlier talking about how when it's a $9 billion family and there's no estate tax on that because of the way the Republicans have driven this, and $4 billion in revenue is lost to the government as a result of this colossal estate being exempted from the estate tax, that's okay. But when it's $25 for a working family to buy a pair of shoes for their daughter, nope, that's too much. Now we've got to get serious about the recession. Now we've got to get serious about the debt. But when it's a $9 billion family and a huge estate, nope, no, we're not. Different rules apply when it's very rich people. Well, I'm here for people like Dan of East Greenwich. He worked in sales. He's been unemployed since April of 2009. His wife is disabled. He's out looking for work, but the jobs aren't there, and he hasn't been able to find one. And if he loses his unemployment insurance, Dan has let us know that he will be evicted from their apartment. He and his disabled wife will be evicted from their apartment. That shouldn't be happening. That's just bluntly wrong. Bill of North Kingstown contacted me, 56 years old. He's been unemployed since January of 2009. He used to work in engineering. He's now been faced twice with eviction when the unemployment insurance has lapsed, and he's looking at eviction again. It is staring him in the face if we don't act. He's received only $200 over the last 3-week period as his benefits have expired, and he's lost his COBRA benefit. But he needs medication, so he's stuck because we haven't acted. Nancy from Portsmouth, 59 years old. She's been unemployed for 21 months. She has a bachelor's degree. She has a whole variety of industry certifications. She's got a background in sales and marketing. She's a talented woman who's worked all her life, and until she got swamped by the tsunami of misery that originated in Wall Street and washed through all of our states, she was fine. But now, after 15 years of working in insurance, she can't find a job, and she will soon lose her unemployment insurance benefits as the Republicans continue to block this extension. So I would urge them to reconsider. I understand the point about the debt and the deficit and the spending, but to me, that doesn't have an enormous amount of credibility, because when President Clinton left office, he left an annual surplus, and he left a budget trajectory that the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office said was going to have us be a debt-free nation by 2008, I believe it was. Debt-free nation. On the day that George Bush was sworn into office, we were on a trajectory to a debt-free nation during his term. There was even discussion in the economic texts about whether that was really a good idea. He solved that. At the end of his term, we had $9 trillion in debt. We weren't debt-free. We were $9 trillion in debt, and we had this economic meltdown that required government intervention to protect people. And that made it even bigger. But we would have none of this if it hadn't been for the Republican debt orgy that they went through. Fair weather debt, I would add. An orgy of fair weather debt. And then a huge hole because of their theory of governance and their theory of economics that has had to be filled in because of that tsunami of misery. That's why we're here. And so it's a little late in the game and a little disingenuous to hear lectures from that side of the aisle about economic sobriety after that wild spending through those Bush years and the cleanup that we've had to do since then. And these guys who are out working and who need the help, folks like Ron, Bill, Dan, Nancy, they shouldn't be paying the price of this. We should take care of the people who are out of work through no fault of their own. Thank you, Senator Stabenow.
Well, thank you.
The floor.
Thank you very much, Senator Whitehouse, for your passion, your leadership, and just to emphasize what you were talking about.